Comes to Star Wars, there are so many fascinating Star Wars characters out there that really it's kind of hard to do a top 10 list. But today I'm going to be trying to give you guys my top 10 favorite Star Wars characters of all time. Now, like I said, this is my favorite Star Wars characters of all time. It's not going to be yours. So if you don't disagree, if one of yours don't make it in, that's okay. Just make sure to comment down below and share what your favorite Star Wars characters are of all time, guys. This is going to be a fun list. I miss Clone Wars. I need my fulfillings of Star Wars, and this is how I'm going to be doing it, by doing some Star Wars content each and every week. So if you guys do enjoy that, make sure again to hit that like and subscribe button so you can stay being a geek like me. And of course, guys, please don't forget to comment. I really want to see your guys' list and maybe pick out someone that, dang, I missed out on. Down at my number 10 is the only cheat on this list just because I could not decide, and it's a bunch of droids. BB-8, C-3PO, R2-D2, D-O, Chopper, and K-2-SO are some of the most notable ones that really always stuck out in my mind, and are the ones that have always put a big smile on my face. The droids are kind of the little saviors of this whole entire world, unless you're one of the people who look at R2-D2 and say, it's your fault that Anakin went to the dark side since you took him to Mustafar. Besides the point, though, I've always loved the Star Wars droids. They're always some of the most unique and zany characters, and that's why I was actually excited, because what you might say about Rise of Skywalker, C-3PO got a lot to do in that one, and I actually like that they actually gave him a little bit more depth. Would have preferred that my boy R2-D2 gets some more, but still, the droids always remain to be one of my favorite elements of Star Wars, and I just could not pick one. I had to pick these main ones. Coming at my number 9, speaking of people who look like droids, General Grievous. I've always loved Grievous ever since I saw him first appear in that original animated Star Wars, The Clone Wars, which if you've never seen that, it's directed by the guy who created Samurai Jack, and it is incredible. I wish that was still canon, but still, I'm happy with the Clone Wars that we have now. General Grievous has always been a character that I've always been fascinated with. Why he might not have the most depth, and it's a character that I definitely wish more people, I wish Lucasfilm would have gone a little bit deeper into, even though Clone Wars, you got a little bit more of him. I definitely love Grievous for a lot of different reasons, and maybe a lot of it's just because of nostalgia. When I was a kid, that was my favorite toy to always play with, all the different parts of him, the way that he moves around, the way that he's just such a badass, and I just love his interactions with Obi-Wan Kenobi the most, and it's always been one of the characters that sticks out the most. And that's funny, when it comes to Star Wars characters, you know, sometimes the side characters stick out because of the design, and I think that's what Grievous really does for me. Coming out with my number 8, speaking of having the high ground, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Never been the biggest Obi-Wan Kenobi fan, but when it comes to Obi-Wan Kenobi, I still love him as a character, and he's definitely still top 10 for me. I think the Clone Wars show really elevated his character a little bit more. Of course, seeing him in A New Hope is excellent, and I was really hoping to get a Force Ghost of him in The Rise of Skywalker, but we didn't. I think what's going to come down to play, and this could actually bump him up even more, is that solo series that they are developing for Disney+. I think that's going to be the main thing that really points me up into Obi-Wan, but I love seeing his relationship with Anakin. I love seeing how much depth has kind of gone into him, especially when it comes to Sabine, and how much more there is about Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Ewan McGregor just nails this role perfectly, and you can't talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi without talking about Alec Guinness, who really does a fantastic job as well. Coming out at my number 7 is going to be Princess Leia, the princess of all of our hearts, Carrie Fisher's character. This is such a wonderful character, and it's funny, as I've aged more, Princess Leia, you know, as you grow up, you notice that, no, she's not just a pretty princess, she's a badass queen who really shows a lot of emphasis inside this world, and that's something that Princess Leia has always been so important to me about. And I think seeing what Carrie Fisher has been able to do with this role, and especially leading into, say, the newer trilogy, and just seeing the nostalgic of her coming about, is one of the most heartbreaking, but also some of the best mannerisms that we could possibly get. I love what they were able to do with Carrie Fisher through that new trilogy, and while I would have liked to have seen what they could have possibly done in Rise of Skywalker if she were to have lived and gotten to there, she didn't, but I love how I love how she kind of went out. I love how she helped with Kylo Ren's kind of arc going into there. But in general, Princess Leia still remains not just a princess, but a badass, a warrior, and a savior to the galaxy. Coming in at my number 6, though, you see him on my shirt. He's one of my favorite Star Wars characters, and that is Kylo Ren. Yeah, I'm a Kylo Ren stan. Deal with it. I think Kylo Ren is one of the best written characters in Star Wars. I think he has one of the best arcs ever in Star Wars, and I would argue even to say I think Adam Driver probably gives one of the best performances in Star Wars ever. We're not talking about the films, but I think just in general, he's incredible in this role as Kylo Ren, and I think as this scared teenager who has kind of gone to the dark side in a way weird manner, I think the comic book storyline right now is really elevating his character a lot. And I think everything about Kylo Ren just really emphasizes so much anger and hatred, and it just really feels satisfying to see where his character kind of goes. While it would have been unique to see what they would have done with the Duel of Fate script, I'm happy with what we got. Well, for the most part, and I'm happy with the performance that Adam Driver gives. And I think if it wasn't for Adam Driver's performance, Kylo Ren for me would not be this high up, but he is single-handedly because of Adam Driver. Before I get to my top 5, guys, I of course have some honorable mentions, and I have a lot because it was hard to kind of narrow it down. So going through my honorable mentions, I have Darth Revan, Kanan, Sabine, Mando / Baby Yoda, that could probably go up later down the road, Lando Calrissian, Cad Bane, one of my favorite bounty hunters. If you notice, I do not have Boba Fett on here because Cad Bane's the supreme one. Ventress, Yoda, and of course, Commander Rex. I love Rex's character. He was literally this close if it wasn't for the droids. Maybe next time, Rex. Maybe next time. If you guys are new here, though, and you haven't commented your top 10 list, make sure to comment it down below. Let me know your guys' top 10 list for all your favorite Star Wars characters, as well as hit that like and subscribe button to be a geek like me, to stay being a geek and stay talking geeky content. I want to discuss it with you guys all down below on a daily basis, as well as, guys, thank you guys again so much for watching this. If you guys are new here, head on over to Sandwich on Films as well. And, of course, just a big thank you to you and a big thank you to my Patreon supporters, because without you, I wouldn't be able to do this. Coming up, my number 5 is going to be Luke Skywalker, the baddest ass lightsaber wielding guy out there in the world. Well, one of them per se. I love Luke Skywalker. I love the progression through the 3 original trilogy films, and what they were able to actually bring to Luke Skywalker in the newer trilogy was not something that I wanted, but something that I actually very much appreciated. And that's not for everyone, and I totally get it. Mark Hamill killed the role as Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi, and especially even going to Rise of Skywalker. And while they retcon some things, I like the discussions that him and Rey have. I think the chemistry between them both is really excellent. And that last fight scene in The Last Jedi, while maybe a cop-out because of the way it's kind of fading out, I love the way that it's kind of emphasis and it's implying. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of The Last Jedi, so don't attack me in the comment section, but I love what they did with Luke in there. I think that was some of the strongest aspects, coming off a hero that we beloved and loved to death, who had all this hope and joy in him, and just to be destroyed. It makes sense as you get older that can happen to people, and seeing that hopeful rejoyfulness inside of him come back is some of my favorite things by the end of The Last Jedi, also heading into The Rise of Skywalker. I love what Mark Hamill's able to do with Luke Skywalker. Again, the original trilogy is still in my heart and soul as being the main thing for Luke Skywalker, and just seeing him ignite that green lightsaber is seriously one of the best moments ever in Star Wars lore. And coming up, my number 4 is going to be Han Solo. I love Harrison Ford. This is kind of just a giant bias one because he's always been one of my favorite characters when it comes to Star Wars. I love how sarcastic his chemistry, his charisma is always imbuing out. And there's just something about Han Solo that really just makes me smile when I see him on screen. The way that Harrison Ford plays him off just works. He gives such a wonderful performance in Force Awakens. That little moment of him in, spoilers, Rise of Skywalker was phenomenal. And in general, just the way that he's able to go throughout the original trilogy and kind of just seeing where his character progresses to is also one of the best things. And I haven't mentioned Chewbacca, who I also love, who I kind of just included at number 3 as well, because you don't get Han Solo without Chewbacca, and without Chewbacca, you don't get Han Solo in a sense, and it's never the same without the other two. And when it comes down to Solo, a Star Wars story, which I think is enjoyable, don't hate me, I think it's enjoyable, I don't love it, I think it's enjoyable, I will say their relationship in there was easily the best part about it, and I just love seeing what Han Solo is able to do with this character, and I just love seeing what Harrison Ford is able to do with this character of Han Solo. He's such a badass, and it just always works in those realms. Coming at my number 3 is Ahsoka Tano. Now, when Ahsoka was first came out, I did not like her character. I thought, oh, this is a very annoying character. It's gonna be the next Jar Jar Binks, but wow, am I wrong. Ahsoka has won me over and over and over all throughout the Clone Wars season, and maybe this is more of a recency bias because of the last Clone Wars season, and in general, while I didn't love her arc with the Martez sisters, that was more because of the Martez sisters, not Ahsoka. The Siege of Mandalore was single-handedly some of the best Star Wars content we have ever gotten, ever. And I think Ahsoka's storyline really was fleshed out in there to even add more to her book, which, yes, some things, key continuities in there, whatever. But even diving into Rebels, which, again, big surprise when she shows up in there, and the ending of that, and now being rumored to be in The Mandalorian Season 2 gets me even more hyped to see what they will do with her character. I think she's one of the best written characters, one of the best progressed characters, and in general, if you look at all the time, she probably has the most time out of all these characters in general when it comes to a storyline, and I think that's something important. This feels like one of George Lucas's last creation, especially with Dave Filoni, and I'm so excited to see where they take her character in the future. Coming at my number 2 is the badass himself, Darth Vader. I went back and forth with number 1 and 2. I just, when it comes down to Darth Vader and the willingness, because I also side with him as being the same as Anakin, their characters really had so much going for them, and I think Clone Wars again developed Anakin into such a fantastic and wonderfully written character. Even added more depth to, say, the prequel trilogy. Even looking at it from that standpoint, Darth Vader isn't just a badass. There's a lot more emotion to him. And spoilers, if you have not seen the Clone Wars season finale, I will not get into it, but I think that last moment with Anakin is one of the most important parts about his character that also dive into Darth Vader. Yes, we've seen Darth Vader be a badass. We've seen him be in Rogue One. We've seen him be in video games. We've seen him be in Rebels, and we've definitely seen him in the original trilogy and how awesome he is. But when it comes down to the man under the mask, that is the most important character arc of it. And while I don't love the prequel trilogy, and while I have issues with some of the character progression with Hayden Christensen and some of the script issues, I still think the Clone Wars series really elevated his character to another level and made me love Darth Vader even more. And coming at my number one, he's always been one of the most coolest looking designed characters of all time, but he's also one of the best well-developed characters after the Clone Wars series, which again, I just love the Clone Wars series. Like, if you can't tell, it's one of my favorite arcs of anything Star Wars, but that's gonna be Darth Maul. Darth Maul is a character that shows up in Phantom Menace, badass looking as ever, and nothing more to him. And I'm like, he's a cool character, but I need more about him. The comics started fleshing out. Books started fleshing out. Some of that got retconned. Then they bring him back for the Clone Wars series, and that's when it got awesome. Because his character progression in the Clone Wars is some of the most unique stuff that we've possibly ever gotten in Star Wars. And it's also some of the most amazing stuff that we've ever gotten in Star Wars history. Because learning about Darth Maul, learning about his origins, learning about his family, his race, his planet, all that sorts of stuff brings such a very unique emphasis on his character. And again, seeing where he goes in this last season of the Clone Wars was absolutely one of the most fascinating things that, again, ties even more into Rebels and makes me appreciate his character even more in Rebels, especially with that last fight scene between him and Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is not a long, drawn-out fight scene that maybe a lot of people were looking for, but I think is actually a more thought-provoking fight scene than we could possibly have ever gotten in Star Wars. I love that, and side note, I am doing a top 10 Star Wars lightsaber battles of all time, so do look forward to that. That is going to be a fun freaking video to make, and very hard one as well. But in general, I really love what they were able to do with Darth Maul, and I'm still hoping, even though I know we're not going to get a solo sequel, I'm hoping we get a spin-off at least about Darth Maul and Kira, whether it's animated format, whether it's live action. I really don't care. I just want that storyline progressed to some capacity. That's my top 10 favorite Star Wars characters of all time. Thank you guys again so much for joining me. You guys are seriously all the best. Look out for more movie reviews, TV reviews, and of course Star Wars content coming up in the next coming days, weeks, and months, because I just love doing content like this and making you smile. It makes me smile, and I hope to stay with you guys. So make sure to stay being a geek like me. May the Force be with you, and of course, until next time, stay classy.